I think we've got it. I think we're live. Hopefully folks can actually start to hear us, if that's the case. We'll wait to see if the stream catches up to where we are. Before we do an intro, hopefully this actually works. Waiting patiently as the...
It looks like it's working on the sensor.
That's good. That's good. I think it's working. I think it's finally working. That was the most bizarre thing I think I've ever seen. Great success. So we've done it. Great success. That's it. So I think we've got it now. Hopefully everybody can hear us up to a certain degree. I don't know how far behind the stream is where we are currently, but I think it's got us pretty well off, I'm gonna say. Okay, so hopefully everyone can hear us.
Excellent.
Hopefully folks can hear us. Okay, everybody, sorry about that technical difficulty there. We definitely had some learning curve issues. There's like some new, I guess, YouTube live stream controls stuff that I wasn't fully aware of, so that's my bad. Don't blame Trek Central for that. But hey, everybody, welcome to the Star Trek Discovery Trek live stream discussion. I am joined today by none other than the bold and beautiful Captain Jack of Star Trek Central, the Trek Central YouTube channel. Captain Jack, how are you doing today?
Hello there, I'm doing good, thank you very much. Might want to turn the music down on the stream, by the way, if the chat are asking. And it does sound a bit loud.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry. The music should be stopped. Hopefully it is stopped. Nice. If it's not, awesome. I apologize. So hopefully I've turned that down. So yeah, sorry. Yes, people may know I don't do a lot of live streams, so I'm a little rusty at it. So I do apologize for that. But we made it. That took a little while there. Ultimately, what was weird is I was just using the wrong version of OBS. I had launched my 32-bit version when I should have been using my 64-bit. So that's what the problem was. And that seems really stupid, but now I know. One of those ones. Yep, just one of those things. So, all right, cool. So we obviously had a huge bit of news come out over the weekend from San Diego Comic-Con from the massive Hall H panel for Star Trek, and we are here to just discuss some of the bits that we've seen, some theories that we may have, and what we look forward to expecting in a couple weeks from Star Trek Las Vegas, and then we'll wrap it up with some Q&A stuff from the fans here in the live chat. I do want to thank everyone who is here currently for tuning in. I appreciate you spending some time with us while we talk about Star Trek. So, Captain Jack, I'm gonna hit you with some questions here. We're gonna go hard. So, when you watched the Star Trek Picard trailer for the first time, how did you feel? What were your reactions? Walk us through that.
I was very intrigued to begin with. Obviously, we've heard about what Picard might be about for a while now, so the trailer's our first proper glimpse outside of the vineyard of Picard, to be honest, because previously everything we've seen has been the vineyard and all that. So the trailer gave us a proper good look at the exterior of the series and what's going on. And for me, the two defining moments for it had to be Jerry Ryan's appearance as 7 of 9, and of course Brent Spiner's appearance as Data at the very end there. I was kind of like, wow, did not expect that one. It was quite interesting. So yeah, I was blown away by it.
Yeah, me too. I had done a video maybe a couple weeks back, maybe a month ago now, that kind of covered a news article that was pulled down that detailed the whole situation with Brent Spiner returning as Data. They pulled it down like an hour after they posted it, but I covered that. So I was kind of tracking Brent Spiner may return, and that kind of made a little bit of sense. But Jerry Ryan popping in at the end there was just so unexpected. Yeah.
Really,
seriously.
I was thinking about it, and we look back at it because obviously I think it's Kirsten Beer who's one of the writers for Star Trek Picard, and also she's written like 8 Star Trek Voyager novels. She's written at least 4. I've seen that, but she's written plenty of Star Trek Voyager novels. We should have expected a Voyager cameo or something, to be honest. As a letdown on our part, we should have expected something Voyager related, given the fact this lady is so passionate about Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah, I mean, I guess now that you say that, that actually seems almost painfully obvious. But in hindsight, I think everyone was just wrapped up with TNG characters returning, including myself.
Mm.
I think everybody was just so wrapped up with, oh, who's returning from TNG? Who's coming back? Are we going to see number one? Who's going to die? That was one of the big topics. And yeah, the Jerry Ryan popping in was super, super unexpected. And I actually saw a tweet from her. I think it was either today or the other day, may have been yesterday, where she tweeted at Robert Picardo. Some of you guys may not know who that is, but he played the EMH doctor on Voyager. And he kind of let like a little sly comment about how he may also possibly pop in at some point in Star Trek Picard. So that's who knows? Who knows what the what
There's
to
a lot
expect.
of opportunities for people to return at the moment. We're opening to fresh, lands of where Star Trek actors can come back. I personally wouldn't be surprised if we saw Kate Mulgrew, Catherine Janeway return at some point. She stated she'd love to return. And what a great time for her to maybe appear in a season 2 of Picard, given the fact it is Voyager's 20th anniversary next year. What a great time to have the captain back on our screens, or Admiral now. It's Admiral Janeway.
Yeah, for sure. Which, yeah, I mean, if they were able to get her back for this season, that would have been pretty cool. But definitely something they could save for the second season. I know.
I think the key as well is to not overload us. As much as I'd love to see like our iconic characters return, it's key and important not to overload season 1 with these iconic characters. I think they must let the new cast, who by the way look brilliant, grow on their own first before we start pulling back everyone. Referencing people and having small cameos is great, but they need to let the new cast grow first and establish them.
I agree. Yeah, for sure. Because too much, too fast, like you said, could overpower the new, younger cast of characters that we don't know, and hopefully that we fall in love with. As I don't even know most of their names. I think they've been disclosed online, but I don't remember them all offhand. That's for sure.
Would you like me to read through them?
Yes, read through them if you've got them. Do it.
So, our full cast list, excluding the cameos and legendary characters, we'll just not talk about them for a minute. We've got Santiago Cabrera, who is playing Crystal Chris Rios. He's apparently an ex-Starfleet officer, though that's not sort of been confirmed yet. We have obviously Isa Bryant, who's playing Daj. She's a mysterious girl. Sorry for pronunciation on that. That's how it's wrote. So she's had a tragedy and is apparently set out to find Picard. And we obviously see that in the trailer with her coming to Picard, saying she feels safe with him. Now we have Michelle Hurd. She's playing Rafi Musica. Again, pronunciation. Apparently her character has an unrelated relationship with Picard's past. She said apparently the character is delicious to play. That's an interesting way to describe it.
Yep.
Meanwhile, we have Alison Pill, who is playing Dr. Agnes Jurati. So she's apparently a researcher and someone who's confused with her place in the world. Fun fact, in the trailer, when we see before in the cupboard, as I politely put it earlier, I believe that's Alison Pill's character looking there with John Luke as well. But obviously, we don't see a face, so we're only guessing from the hair. Could be someone else, but it does look like it's her. Additionally, joining them is Evan Evagor as Elnor, the Romulan. He's the one who people have been nicknaming Legolas because he kind of looks like an elf. Not sure why. And then finally, we have Harry Treadaway as Narek. He is apparently a Romulan bad guy, though that's not sort of been confirmed yet, but he does look pretty evil.
He does look a bit evil. I agree. So
he looks like he's up to something. I really want to see, and you can agree with this or not, Tal Shiar. I feel like they're lurking around somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So when I went through the trailer, the second or third kind of deep go through, I did notice the Romulan Star Empire logo on the handrail of the Borg, what we're assuming now is like a Borg prison ship, and that is right up the Tal Shiar's alley. That's a Tal Shiar thing. So I think not including the Tal Shiar, I think they're going to be included, especially since Alex Kurtzman, he loves a good secret organization. He loves.
Yes, we've done Section 31 to death now.
Right,
Please,
exactly.
Something else.
Exactly. So he loves that stuff very much. So I think it's definitely something that he will definitely include onto this show. It would be crazy for him not to be perfectly honest. I think it's definitely something he will include. So I'm excited for that to return as well.
It's really also going to be interesting to see how the galaxy of Star Trek is in its current state. Because obviously, we're 20 years roughly since the events of Star Trek Nemesis, where everything was all right. Obviously, the Romulans had a massive political shakeup. The Klingons were doing all right. Dominion War was over. Starfleet were doing okay. But fast forward 20 years, how is the galaxy doing now? Are those alliances still holding? Obviously, we know Romulus has kind of got blown up at a certain point, so that's not too good. But how are the Klingons, how are the Federation doing as a whole? Hopefully, we're going to learn that before the series starts, because I have a feeling that's going to be key to setting up how Picard plays around in this new show.
No, I agree for sure. Yeah, I mean, because we do know that for sure the writers of the Picard show sat down with the developers of Star Trek Online. And so we know that they are interested a little bit in some regards to what was going on with that storyline. I don't know how familiar you are with STO's storylines there, but there was a whole breakout war between the Klingons and the Federation for their initial part of their
Basically, the
storyline.
Khitomer Accords fell apart, really, didn't they?
Basically, yes. Basically, the whole storyline was after Romulus fell apart, the government kind of fell apart because Romulus was destroyed. The Klingons decided they were going to start to retake different planets, including Khitomer. They started to retake a bunch of different planets. They invaded the Gorn. It took over the Orion, and they were being super aggressive. So they basically severed ties with the Federation because Federation is anti-war. They're anti that kind of stuff, but. So it definitely caused them to have a big split at that point. So I'm wondering if they're going to try to tuck that in to the Picard show, where there's going to be a war between potentially, or maybe hostile tensions between the Federation and the Klingons. That would be interesting to see. Yeah, I'd be curious to see, or what happened with the the Cardassians. Where are the Bajorans? What are we post Dominion? Because those things are all happening. Those things have happened, and those things need to. I feel like they shouldn't make that a big part of the thing, but there needs to be some references in my mind. Like, I don't think they should just totally ignore it. What do you think?
They definitely have to sort of honor where it's gone anyway. But regarding the Star Trek Online story, it would be nice to see them draw aspects from it, but they can't take the whole thing in a way, because Star Trek Online is so engrossed in its own separate part of the lore now. It would be really hard to build that around a show. And I don't think that's what they want to do, because the TV, or the TV Star Trek has always had its own freedom of projecting its future. So I don't think they're going to play with STO as much as we probably want them to.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think they will. Not as much. And STO, I mean, has some really interesting plot threads and interesting stories for all the game is worth, with its loot boxes and all that stuff. But there's some interesting stories there. But they do go a little off the rails. Like the whole thing with Hobus turned out to be this long revenge from the Iconians for Sila's actions in the past, and it was like this crazy space opera storyline. It was a bit epic in scope, but I don't think that's something that they should do in this series. But talking about this series, I've kind of given my ideas of what might be happening. What do you think is happening? What do you think is going on with these characters? Like, who's this mysterious woman, or what are your thoughts?
Romulans are up to something messing around with Borg tech. That's kind of a simple way I've got to put it. But knowing what's happened, it's like, uh-oh, they've accidentally done something. Woman has escaped to seek Picard's help. I have a feeling Starfleet have become very sort of not worried about getting involved. From the way Picard was having that conversation with the Admiral, I just got this impression that Starfleet kind of sat back going, yeah, hand. It's kind of like one of those organizations turned like that in a way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the impression I'm getting so far, which is a bit concerning, because Starfleet usually the ones who Picard was one of those people who, when he saw an injustice, got involved with the Enterprise and disobeyed Starfleet. Now he's not in it. Have maybe Starfleet changed and they're like, yeah, we'll just not get involved for the sake of it, because they've seen a lot of war in the last century, to be honest.
They have.
So it could be interesting. I'm not sure. This series is going to be interesting, and I'm not sure. Oh, it's just so much to think about. Like, the Romulans obviously heavily involved, and Picard is related to them somehow, maybe because of a rescue armada he led. But even thinking about the rescue armada now, I don't think the rescue armada is about the Hobus supernova. I think it's different. There's some other different rescue armada potentially.
Really? Okay. What do you think? What do you think it's going to? The other theory that I had was for the Borg, but what do you think?
That was kind of going on the same thing as well. The Hobus supernova occurred in 2387, right? That was the date for it, roughly.
That is the current tentative date, yeah, that we've used.
Yeah,
based
so it's
on
not confirmed. They could change it.
Yeah.
However, we do know, thanks to the Picard First Duty exhibit at San Diego Comic-Con, Picard left the Enterprise E and was promoted to Admiral in 2381. Apparently, the Rescue Armada was led in 2386, where he subsequently retired from Starfleet. So if the Hobus supernova occurred in 2387, it would be a bit weird to evacuate the planet 1 year early, when it's meant to wipe out the Romulan species almost.
I mean, I've got
Surely the
actually,
rescue might have come over somewhere else, really.
I've got one even more for you here. When I'll actually pull this
Go on.
up really quick here for the chat box to look at as well while we're chatting here. I'm gonna pull up this image. Boop, there it goes. So here, if you guys can see that, so Data dies at 2379, and then Picard leaves the Enterprise E at 2381. And based off of the line from the Picard teaser, the rescue armada took place in 2384, which is even earlier.
84.
Yeah, which is even earlier than the Hoba supernova. So I don't know. My thought is that maybe they're going to try to do a little bit more play up on the science aspect of a quote unquote supernova. And they're going to say, well, supernova actually wouldn't have destroyed Romulus immediately, because in Star Trek 2009 it implied that it would, like, the Hoba supernova went up and then Romulus was hit like immediately, and that's also the storyline they went with for STO. But they may try to say like, oh, the Hoba supernova went up in 2384, or they detected it in 2384 and then they launched an armada, and maybe there's a lot of Romulans left, but they're in disarray because their government and planet fell apart and they weren't able to quite recover, and maybe that's why the Tal Shiar are kind of running amok. And you know, maybe that's also why.
Speaking of which, in the trailer, we see a bunch of Romulan warbirds, or birds of prey, however you want to call them, going towards a planet. Now, we originally thought this was Vulcan, but on further speculation, this could be Mars. Particularly because Romulus is related to Mars in a way. Romulus and Remus are. I believe in mythology they are the children of Mars. I might be wrong on that, but they're related to Mars somehow. Now,
Yeah.
one of the short Trek episode titles is called The Children of Mars.
Yep.
So could that planet in the trailer be Mars? Maybe Romulans have settled in the solar system? Something? I'm not sure.
Absolutely. It's totally possible. You know, and we do know for sure that one of the short treks will be a prelude to Picard's show. And it's very possible that the Children of Mars one will be that. And it will have to do with what's going on. Like, it looks like they're moving into like an attack formation or something, but who knows really what they're doing? They could just be ships. It could just be regular old ships moving over and then possibly moving into the Mars area. I don't know if Starfleet would be comfortable with putting a former adversary that close to the Sol system, but who knows how desperate the Romulans are and what the situation really looks like in that moment.
Because Mars is technically settled in Star Trek lore. It's settled by humans.
For sure.
It's been there for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
So having Romulans on there would be incorrect. Unless it is another planet and it just looks like Mars. I mean, it's not the first time the Star Trek producers have used planets which are in our solar system to form other planets. They did that in season 1 of Discovery. You could see Earth on what's not meant to be Earth, which is quite confusing, but only a few people pick that one up.
Right. So yeah, it's there's definitely some interesting bits going on, and I'm curious to see what is happening in the lore of the universe and what the dynamics are.
Let's discuss one key thing for a minute. I think you'll love this, and the chat I've just noticed have asked about it as well. Where's the Enterprise? The Enterprise, where is it? That's one of the key questions going around at the moment, because, you know, the last time we saw the Enterprise on our screen was in Star Trek Nemesis in 2379.
Yep.
And that was under the command of Picard, and at the very end we saw, you know, William Riker had left to command the Titan along with Deanna Troi. Data was dead, and it was just Worf, Geordi, and Beverly left, really. That was the only key people left on the ship. So where did the Enterprise go from there? In deleted scenes, we saw there was a new first officer, but considering it was deleted scenes, that's not canon anymore. So we don't even know who the new XO of the ship is. Could it be Worf? Probably not.
No, I don't think so. We'll get to the Worf discussion here in a second. I don't want to talk about that yet. I want to answer your question really quick, which is, what do I think the Enterprise is? It depends. Do I think that the Enterprise E is still jumping around, or have they already transitioned to the Enterprise F? I don't know. That's a good question. Are we even going to see it? I think that we will, just for the simple fact that people want to see it, and also it gives them the opportunity to sell more toys and T-shirts and lunchboxes that feature a new Enterprise.
Don't do a Discovery. Don't do like end of Picard season 1, and we get the Enterprise at the 10th episode at the last 30 seconds. I'll go through the roof about that. I hope, you know, we see it, but as dance made out of it in a way. You know, they shouldn't put the Enterprise in for the sake of putting the Enterprise in. It should fit into the story somehow. And I believe this could be, to be honest with you, I reckon we will see the Enterprise, given the fact Jonathan Frakes is filming a flashback scene with Patrick Stewart. So most likely there is going to be some sort of Enterprise reference there, because that predictably, that's probably what they're flashbacking to Frakes and Picard on the Enterprise, or Frakes and Stewart on the Enterprise in a way. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, because he did. Yeah, even in that TV line interview, yeah, Picard. I always call him Picard. Patrick Stewart mentioned that he will be wearing a uniform in a flashback sequence. And right, I mean, how much does it cost? Even if they only build some of the set and they don't rebuild the entire Enterprise E bridge, or maybe some, like just like the view screen or something. I mean, how much does it cost for them to do pull the digital archives on the Enterprise E and just throw that in? You know what I mean, to the show?
Just build a whole set for the sake of it.
I mean, well, technically they kind of did that for the TOS bridge, but I think that there's
something more of that. If this leads on to another discussion, I think. Should we start going through a bit more, because we're going to be here for hours else? Let's talk about the short treks a moment, if that's good all right with you.
Yeah, that's cool. It's transition, yeah.
One of the things I wanted to bring up is in the short treks, it appears they've built the new TOS transporter, which means they've built a new set room completely, rather than just redressing like the Disco's one. Because for like the Shenzhou and the Discovery one, they just redressed each other to form the transporter room, didn't they? So it appears now in the short trek, TOS has got its own transporter room. I may be incorrect, but looking at the short trek, it looks like it's a brand new set. So why would they go to the trouble of building a whole new set for only one episode? Pike series?
Oh, 100%. We're 100% getting the Pike series. I think
they're just teasing us for the sake of it now.
Yeah, I mean, that whole situation, I don't know if you caught that, because I know we were both kind of live tweeting during the SDCC event on Saturday. But there was a point where Alex Kurtzman asked the crowd there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, hey, do you guys want a show? And then everyone, like, erupted with a big resounding absolutely yes.
We'll think about it.
Right, exactly. And I think that's...
I strongly think something at Las Vegas is going to happen.
100%. That's what they're saving for Las Vegas, I think. For sure. And they're going to wheel out Anson Mount. Anson Mount's going to make an appearance. That's just a gut feeling, because they did that last year with Patrick Stewart, where he came and announced that the Picard show, or a few years ago when he announced the Picard show was coming back. So it makes sense that they would save that for Star Trek Las Vegas. They're going to bring out Anson Mount, and he's going to be like, I'm back, and we're doing a full season of TOS Pike. Because you're right. Why would they spend the money to build those sets? And because you're right, it's not a redressed disco transporter room. And they probably expanded the sets as well, because like the short trek trailer shows turbo lifts that are, I think they used the turbo lift in the Discovery one, but they obviously built it. They have the turbo lift area. They obviously are spending a lot of time on the TOS, Enterprise.
Yeah, so we've got a turbo lift, which is new. That was built for the actual Discovery part. It's not redressed or anything like that. We also have the bridge, which is completely there. We have the ready room, which I'm not sure if it's a redress, but it may just be a swap around of basic assets, because the ready room isn't much anyway. But regardless, it's still for the TOS set. Corridors are redresses of Discovery corridors. We can't count them. And also got the transporter room as well. And I don't think I'm missing anything else, unless the chat want to pop in as well. But yeah, I think that's mostly everything, unless we're going to build an engineering while we're at it.
I think they probably will. I think that they probably will, especially if they're going to do a full series order. They're going to make the engine room, the engineering bay.
What would they name it? What would a name for a Pike series be? Star Trek Pike would be good, but I feel like they could do something different with it.
Yeah, I mean, they could, but honestly, since they named this show just Picard, I'm okay with them just calling it Star Trek Pike, or just Pike. Like, I'm okay with that. I mean, there's definitely, like, you could say Star Trek 5-year mission or something like that, or Star Trek Boldly Going, or something kind of cool like that. But I don't know if if their marketing team is sitting in the room with them saying, no, we have to call it Pike, so that way all of the Trekkies that are just casual fans 100% know that this show is going to feature the character they liked from Star Trek Discovery. I don't know. Could be their marketing department. But other than...
It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, so I definitely agree. What do you think about the tribbles story and what's going on there?
That's an interesting one. It was live tweeting that, because I was just watching a panel and such, and why is a girl eating tribbles? What the fuck?
like it's like a bowl of cereal.
Yeah, because I watched because you thought, oh, great trailer. That end segment comes on, you think, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah,
and, I'm not hating on anything. It's just kind of like, that's out of the blue. What?
Right. I guess we've never known if tribbles were edible, but they just don't seem like they would, because it just seems like
find out.
Yeah, it's just a big ball of hair, really. I don't know about that, but I don't know. It's very weird. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what the intent is with that. But I'm curious to see what they're going to do, because tribbles are always kind of fun, but they seem to be taking it in a different way. It was almost like a horror type situation where like they had that lady, like it looked like she was like surrounded by tribbles and she was screaming, and I got the impression like she was being eaten, and which was weird. And then we cut to that young girl eating one of them, so it's like, oh gosh, what is happening? Yeah, it's very strange.
By the way, I love what your chat is coming up with for names of the Star Trek Pike series. We have Star Trek 1701 at the moment, Star Trek The Cage. I feel there's some great suggestions going on.
I see To Boldly Go, which is great, but I definitely like the 1701. I think that's pretty cool. Even if they just called it 1701, like that would be pretty. That would be pretty cool.
Sadly, we can't call it Star Trek Enterprise. We've been there and done that.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been easy for them to call it Star Trek Enterprise, but that would just be too confusing. Don't do that. I like 1701 though. 1701 is pretty cool. Tribbles and Bits, a new serial for seriously though. So let's shift focus really quick, and let's talk about the other thing that was announced at SDCC, which was Lower Decks, the animated show.
We saw Discovery as well.
We do, yes.
So Lower Decks, that was great, to be honest. I'm glad we finally got what the animation style is. And we've not seen it actually in motion yet. We've only just seen pictures of it. So we've not seen the fluid animation, which I think is pretty key for an animated series. So obviously we'll see that at Las Vegas, I believe. I'm not sure whether Mike Mahan mentioned there's a trailer happening, but they've got the writing team there. So most likely something is going to happen. It could just be a teaser or something like that. But I'm liking the look of Lower Decks, and the cast look very cool as well. What do you think?
I'm cool with it. I noticed that there was a bit of a negative reaction online to it because people were saying this isn't Star Trek, this animated show looks too goofy or whatever it is. I'm okay with it. Like I am open to the idea that not every single show needs to be a 5-year mission. Not every single show needs to be super serious and have a lot of drama and be far-reaching to exploring. Not everything needs to follow the Gene Roddenberry formula of exploring, things in a formulaic kind of approach of who we are as individuals. And they can still do that and make us ask ourselves hard questions, even through a fun animated show. Because obviously it's very heavily influenced by Rick and Morty. It's obviously got one of the Rick and Morty guys on there working the show there. So Rick and Morty also sometimes will ask us hard questions about what is right, what is wrong, and what is good about the world. And they could easily put that into a Trek show in a more comedic sense. So I'm very excited for it. Like you said, we haven't even seen any animation of it yet. We haven't even seen one line. We haven't heard anything yet. So for people saying, it looks like crap, I think is just kind of crapping on.
They're going off a couple of pictures at the moment, which I think is a hard one to do because, for all we know, these could be concept pictures. They seem like they've been made purely for San Diego Comic-Con. So, the rest of it could be high res. But I do think this is what it'll actually look like. And to be honest with you, for animation, it looks pretty good. Standard animation. I don't know what people were like. Were they expecting CGI like the Clone Wars or something? But for a standard animation series, it's pretty simple and straightforward.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think it's fun. I think it's cool that. I know we're also getting the Nickelodeon animated show. They didn't talk about that at San Diego Comic-Con.
Due in 2022, I believe. So it's probably a lot more in development. I believe they've only just started writing, so there's going to be no concept yet.
For sure. Yep, definitely. And so we're not going to see too much about that, but I'm excited for it. Like, I know a lot of people dislike. I'm not trying to get too grandiose with our discussion with just Trek in general, but a lot of people. There are fans out there that just hate everything going on, but I'm excited for it. We don't even know the quality of any of these shows that are coming out, and having an animated show that's just something different. It's something unique. It's something different. Yeah, we've had the animated show before, but the intent of that was just basically to be the original series, but in animation form. But this seems to be like, well, we're going to just do a different spin. It's just going to be something fun, something unique that people can just click on and watch and enjoy. That hopefully that'll be fun for people to engage with. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the Nickelodeon show. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I have no idea anything about it, but other than the fact that it's geared towards younger children. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. That could mean anything. Like SpongeBob is geared towards younger children, but a lot of older adults still like watching SpongeBob. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything that it's going to turn off the older audience. So I'm excited for it all. I really am. I think it's going to be great. I'm pumped.
Definitely. I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest. I mean, obviously, we've got a new ship class which has been teased inside of it,
Yes.
which is the California class USS Cerritos, I believe it's called. I keep accidentally calling it Cheetos in the scripts to be right, but all right, sure, we're going to accidentally do that at one point, but it's going to be an interesting ship. And what I love is just how blunt they are towards it. It's like, yeah, it's basically not an important starship. It sucks. It's basically how they put it. And I think this is a very, unique POV into Star Trek where it's kind of like these are the people you don't see. Like you always see Picard and the Enterprise going around. But what
Right.
about that bloke over there in the Miranda class, which is clearly just being blown up for the sake of it? Tell me about his story. The way Mike Mahan said it is like, when Will Riker and Thomas Riker are trapped on the planet and they're fighting how to get off. Meanwhile, Data and Geordi on the Enterprise writing a script for the play and beating each other up. He wants to tell that story. And when you think about it, it does actually sound quite funny, to be honest. So I don't know. Lower Decks is going to be an interesting POV for Star Trek media. So we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I think it's a fun idea, the concept. I liked also the fact, and I didn't expect them to do this, but I like the fact that they were like, and here is the bridge crew who think the show is about them, and it's not. It's about the younger ensigns. So I'm curious to see what the dynamic will be between the two different groups.
The bridge crew.
Yeah,
I just like the knockoff characters. Like we've got the captain who looks like the Picard. Then we've got the one that looks like the smug Will Riker. We've got the like Worf knockoff, who's I think is the engineering guy. He's like wants to eject the warp core all the time. Then we have the cat lady or vacation, who is basically Catherine Pulaski cat version, which is how she's described. And it just sounds hilarious straight away.
It does, and I'm excited to see because like the Vacation, like you're used to seeing them kind of more photorealistic in their representation, but it's literally just a cat with a human body, and I think it's great, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there to make a lot of fun kind of comedy there and a lot of humor with that and playing that piece up there as the character, the Doctor, is a cat, and I wonder if they're gonna do like fun things where it's like. Obviously they're not going to do something ridiculous like the cat's like sleeping on the desk or whatever, but something fun like, oh, the cat is like, oh yeah, like hacking up a hairball, or like, oh, back on my planet, you just need to do this. And it's like this weird cat remedy, or something like that, or some kind of catnip jokes or something. I don't know. They sound corny now that I'm saying it, but they could make it fun in the show. I'm not a comedy writer, so don't judge me. Don't judge the show.
Something funny will go down. We know that.
Yeah, something's going to be good for sure. All right. So, let's transition into the big one, the other big one, I should say, the hotter topic, which is Star Trek Discovery. So
yeah, season 3.
Season 3 started. I made a video a few weeks ago with my theory that season 3 had started filming early July. I think that has been confirmed just based off the fact that we got the high res set on all location photos.
Well done, you got that one right.
Woo! I know, yeah. So they were filming.
I looked at that and thought,
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But they were filming down in Reykjavik, and we've got that obviously confirmed. So they have been filming. Production is underway. Are you excited for Star Trek Discovery Season 3?
I'm keen to see where it goes because it's going to sound really corny. It's going to explore a new frontier of Star Trek, and I think that's great to explore a new final frontier. Now, my hope for it is because the time zone they land in, I hope they recognize the temporal Cold War somehow, because that was a key part of one of my favorite series, Star Trek Enterprise. Don't get your pitchforks. I like Enterprise. Yes, I said it. Anyway, I think it would be a great time to see where Discovery lands, see what state the Federation is in, and go from there. Also, who's going to be the new captain?
To answer that question really quick, it needs to be Saru, in my opinion. And the reason I say that, and it's nothing against Michael Burnham, I know a lot of people don't like her character. It really has nothing to do with that. It's just in my mind, they have set up in both season 1 and especially in season 2, they've set up that Michael is effective on the ground, on the away team, doing the things, doing the action, moving the story forward in that transition period. And they've set up many sequences where Saru was on the ship, in command, leading the people on like from that perspective. They've set that up so well in season 2 of Discovery, I think, that if they were to flip it suddenly and make Michael Burnham the captain, then it's going to be weird because she's supposed to be the main character that's propelling all this actions forward. So if she's the captain but always off doing the adventure, which we've had before, obviously, that's not a new thing to Star Trek. That's not a new thing at all. But I think just for Discovery's sake, there's when you have a character that is just as good to be in the captain's chair as the Michael Burnham character, I think Saru should be the person there. I think that's the way
I
to go.
agree as well. One interesting thing I had, now we know Suru's been set up to be the captain. I think everyone can agree on that, whether you like Discovery or not. Suru is set up to be command material, even though he's acting captain. And they did a funny thing in the season 2 final. It was like, let's not make it official, which is like, okay, I think there's going to be a bit of a power play. I reckon, because we've still got Giorgio on the ship, haven't we? A former Terran Empress. I
Yeah,
reckon there's going to be a power play. Someone's going to try and take command.
that's very possible. That's very, very possible.
Desperate times, the crew is separated almost 1,000 years from their friends and their previous lives. Someone's going to get desperate.
Yeah, especially if they're sticking with some kind of So it kind of depends in my mind, right? So if they what should happen right now is they should be jumping 1,000 years into the future, and the Federation should still be there because they still have to deal with the Temple Accords, the Temple Cold War, all of that stuff. There still should be a Federation there. But if they go with what was kind of set up in the Calypso short trek, where the Federation is not there and they're called the Vidraish, they may try to push for the Giorgio character stepping in because she would be the more of the stronger leader type in a situation where their back is against the wall and they're surrounded by enemies. So with that, though, so here's something that's in my head. Everyone theorized when the Calypso short trek came out, everyone theorized because the AI, I think her name was Zora, if I'm correct on that. Right. So she said that she's been in that nebula for 1,000 years. So everyone said, okay, so they took the date of the end of Star Trek Discovery Season 2 and they plussed by 1,000 and they said, okay, that's how long the ship's there. But that's not the case anymore because they just jumped 1,000 years into the future and there's no way that that would be the case anymore. So what I'm thinking is they're going to jump into the future. Federation will still be there. I actually think that the Discovery and the time suit is what's going to cause the issues with the Temporal Cold War and the Temporal Accords, because now time travel is not only something that's serious, but also readily available, that the Discovery's using it, and it's going to cause a bunch of problems for the quadrants because of time travel, and they're going to appear. And I think that they're not going to be able to destroy the sphere data, and they're not going to want to because they feel like it's important enough not to destroy, but it's too dangerous to be given to one particular organization. So then they're going to park the Discovery in the nebula and leave it there for another 1,000 years. And Calypso actually took place long after, like in the year 4,000 something. That's okay. My current thought. That's the only way in my mind that they could kind of fit it back in. Because if they jump in the future and it's the Vidraish and the Federation's falling apart and all that stuff like that, then you're right. They've kind of ignored the Temporal Accords, the Temporal Cold War, and that would upset me because Enterprise is also one of my favorite shows as well. So I would be pretty upset.
We need to get the Temporal agents back in. Get me Daniels. Where's Matt Winston? Get him to reprise his role. That's what we need.
What is he doing? He's not doing anything. Yeah, he's not doing anything right now. Get his ass back down to set so he can do something. So I'm curious to see what they do. But overall, they have a situation right now where Discovery is essentially been soft rebooted, taken out of its original timeline. It's taken out of, they've kind of gone away from all their original plot points that they were talking about in pre-productions and stuff, like, oh, we're going to near it. Every year it's going to get closer and closer to Kirk and Spock and all this other stuff. But obviously they've gone a completely different direction, which is fine. They've kind of soft rebooted the show. They've moved it 1,000 years in the future. And they have, in my mind, they have an entirely blank slate to run with. And the sky's the limit. It's on them now. They really need to knock it out of the park.
Discovery is free to operate in its own area. And why I mentioned it in my video about Discovery, I feel like they can honor and respect Star Trek lore, but still pave the way for new things even better now. They're free of hitting their head on something like, oh dear, Picard occurs in X amount of years. Something else occurs, Voyager does. Now, nothing really else occurs in the future. Obviously, there's a few minor events. That's easy to work around. There's no major series of 7 seasons or 10 years of content blocking their path. But they can look back and respect what's become before them. They can make Voyager references, Next Generation, as soon as they learn about it, obviously. But I feel like they can respect canon more now.
For sure. Definitely. And any new technology that they want to put onto the Discovery show, not just the ship, but the Discovery show now, it doesn't impact anything, because they can sit there and say, well, this is just what it is now in the year 3000, whatever. And
this is a great way to show future technology. Like, you can bring back the holo communications and stuff like that if they really want to.
Correct. Yes. it's definitely something they could easily do at this point. So the ball's in their court. I'm excited to see what they do. I know that they improved heavily in season 2 over season 1. Season 1 for me is still very rough. I really can't watch it. It's not something that I click on and like, oh, I can't wait to watch that episode of Discovery. I honestly,
the
the only
highlight of season 1 for me has to be Jason Isaacs' betrayal of Lorca. I think that was one of the highlights of how that was like. So it's so different. That's what I liked about it. It was like a captain who you thought, okay, he's a bit of a rough captain. All right, we'll let that slide. And then it's like, oh, he's actually some other bloke. Okay. But I did like Jason Isaacs' betrayal. I wish there was some way we could bring back Prime Lorca, but don't think there's a way anymore. Unless he magically found himself in the future.
Which he could have, you never know. Listen, sliding.
There's our new captain.
Yeah, that's right. Doing a sliders adventure through time, through the Mirror Universe and Prime Universe could have unintended consequences. You never know. But I do like that. Yeah, the only thing that I really remember from season 1 is honestly the Mirror Universe episodes, which I think were expertly done. I thought that the sets were great, the uniforms were great. That universe was explored more in those few episodes than we've seen in previous episodes of Trek, in my opinion. From a high level perspective, getting to see the Empress and seeing how that worked, and also the rebellion and all that stuff like that. Like, that was really cool. I liked that premise that they set up in there. But that's really honestly all I remember from Star Trek Discovery season 1. But sliding into season 2, I remember quite a bit about season 2, and it's not just because it just ended this year. It's because there was a lot of memorable moments of that season, and the plot was much more interesting in my opinion, and there was a lot more things going on there. So they definitely improved, and now is the time for them to really knock it out of the park, I think. I don't know if their intention is to just have 3 seasons and then end it and not worry about getting a season 4. I don't know what their focus is. I don't think so either.
It's just a marketing point. They want to get as much as they can.
For sure.
They don't want for a Star Trek series to fail and die. It would look really terrible on the entire franchise. We don't need another Enterprise situation where it only gets 4 seasons.
I agree.
But Discovery's doing all right. When you look at the metrics and numbers, and I know some say it's not doing well, but when you actually look at the facts, it's doing really well. Like, the metrics and numbers for how many people are viewing it and paying to watch it is quite surprising, considering you think it wasn't doing so well apparently. But no, it's actually doing all right. I don't know if you've done much research into that.
Is that sarcasm on your part, or
no? I was asking. Have you looked into it? I'm not sure if you look into the business side.
Yeah, no, I absolutely do. I spend a lot of time. I have spent an inordinate amount of time having researched all of the different aspects of Star Trek Discovery from a marketing perspective, business perspective, money making perspective, impressions, views, because I needed all that stuff to kind of be up and up when I had to make my conspiracy theory videos. So I have a lot of knowledge about all that stuff, and right. I mean, obviously, we'll never get, well, maybe, but I doubt it, we'll ever get full view figures from Netflix. It's just not something that they're going to do. I think that the show did. No, they keep it very, 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 very quiet, hush hush, which is fine. But obviously, Parrot Analytics said that the show was the most in-demand show in a lot of markets overseas. Which doesn't necessarily translate to views. That is just in-demand expressions. But when you look at the fact that it was labeled as one of the top shows for Netflix in one of the months, I think it was during the 2nd season, and then the fact that the show has increased the Netflix subscriber numbers. If you go through the numbers of subscribers, like Netflix has all this stuff on their corporate website where you go through the different months, and there was spikes in their subscription numbers for Star Trek Discovery months that it was airing. Now, does that trail off afterwards? Very possible. CBS is dealing with that right now with CBS All Access subscriptions, so it's possible. But right, the show did fine. That's what I said in one of my later videos. I think I've done a couple weeks ago, which is I don't think the show knocked it out of the park. Like, I don't think it was a groundbreaking success. Because if it was, they would have said that. They would have been like, this is the most watched show ever. They would have told us that. But they're not just going to get on the TV, or a YouTube video or whatever, and press release and just say, yeah, that Star Trek Discovery show, yeah, it did fine. Like, it was average viewed. Like, it was good enough. Like, they're not just going to say that because that's not a story. That's lame. So because there is no strong positive news, I think the narrative of, well, it must have just sucked, that narrative exists very heavily as well. And I don't think that's fair to say, because we don't really know. We don't really know for sure. And regardless of what you feel about the show, CBS believes in it, and they're going to continue to pump money into it for now. And you're right, like they spent $100 million, building all those sets and getting everything together for first season. I don't feel like they would just try to mothball all of those things that they spent all that money on after only 3 seasons. They'll probably try to go to 5. That's what my gut tells me.
Most likely, yeah, I predict 5. That would probably be a round number.
Yeah. 5 is good. 5 is a solid season run. They can admit that they're done after that. It doesn't look like they just gave up on the show, and it allows them to recap a lot of the costs on the back end of what's going on with the Discovery stuff and how much it costs them to make it and stuff. So let's kind of transition a little bit. Let's get a little bit more broad terms here. So we're going to talk about 2 different things I want to talk about. First thing I want to talk about is Star Trek Las Vegas. We touched on it earlier. I think we're both in agreement that one of the things that they're definitely going to announce there is a Pike show. What else do you think we might see at Star Trek Las Vegas? What are you thinking?
I'm not sure, to be honest. There's a lot of stuff to think about. I'm not sure, to be honest. What do you think? You tell me first.
I do think that we're going to get the Pike stuff. I think we're going to get more lower deck stuff, and I do think that they're going to try to provide some type of narrative update on the production of the Section 31 show.
Yeah, I think that'd be good because we've not heard anything about that for a while now, which is slightly disappointing.
Right.
So maybe they're just taking their time to work on it. We did say it wouldn't land until 2021, 2022 is what Kurtzman did say. So, it's right they're taking their time with it.
For sure, and I don't know because the big question I think everybody has right now in regards to the Section 31 show is, other than the fact that hopefully it's still in pre-production, hopefully they haven't canceled it, but the big one is the fact that why did they cast Michelle Yeoh as the primary lead for that show, but then she went, supposedly as of right now, from what we understand, she's in the future with the Discovery. She's 1,000 years in the future. So is the Section 31 show going to be in the future, or is she going to magically get back in time, or did she get off the Discovery before it went through the portal? Because there was a period of time where she could have jumped into an escape pod and popped out really fast and found herself on one of the disabled Section 31 ships after the battle. So there's definitely something there. Really quick before you respond, I do want to say thank you, Mikey Likey, for the donation. I do appreciate that. So what do you think?
Of Section 31, or are we back to Las Vegas?
No, just what do you think is going on with Michelle Yeoh's character?
Oh, I'm not sure, to be honest. Like, you mentioned it there, her being in future now kind of says, well, what the hell's going to happen in Section 31? I'm not sure, to be honest, unless part of me thinks, and I hate to say this, I don't know whether they've realized they've maybe jumped the gun with the Section 31 series and thought, oh, maybe that's not what people want, and now are trying to quietly backtrack without anyone noticing. But I doubt they do that when they've put resources into it. But I mean, has it been greenlit for a season 1? Because they've not finished writing it yet, have they?
They haven't finished it. No, the last update we got big
it's not
time.
greenlit technically.
No, technically it's greenlit on their books, and they've talked about it in press junkets and things like that. The last formal update we got was, I want to say it was from Michelle Paradis. I want to say it may have been Akiva Goldsman, but don't quote me on that. Was an interview where she said that it's possible that the Section 31 show would be airing after the end of Discovery, whenever the Discovery show finally ends.
They said post-Discovery Season 3. I remember that now. You are slightly correct. Someone said it. It said after the end of Discovery Season 3, which of course would mean it being 2021 because it'd be way too close to land it next year, considering we've got Picard at the start of the year, Discovery will most likely land in the middle, and then Lower Decks will most likely land towards the end.
Yeah, I agree. So
or Lower Decks will be in the middle and Discovery at the end. That makes more logical sense.
That's true. Yeah, it could be Picard, Lower Decks, then Discovery, and then hitting us with another one.
Discovery's only just started filming. Lower Decks has been in production for a while now, slightly shorter than Picard. So therefore, Picard will be able to air at the start of 2020, and Lower Decks will take over the middle.
Yeah, that's very true. But the reason I bring all that up is I don't want to say concerned, but I think it's going to be a factor that plays into the potential for a 4th and 5th season for Discovery, because they may be saying, okay, well, what if we just wrapped up Discovery after the 3rd season, and then we can, reposition those budget funds to a Section 31 show and let people focus on that. But I don't think that they need to do that. I think that it's possible they can do a Section 31 show, and maybe she is in the future and somehow makes it back, because the time suit's still there. she can still utilize the time suit. You know, I know it's geared. I know it's genetically geared towards just the Burnham family right now, but I do think that there's going to be a temporal cords could potentially be a very large plot that could be featured in there, and time travel could be something that she gets her hands on, and then maybe goes back and links up with Ash Tyler, because Ash Tyler and her, I hate Ash Tyler's character. I don't know if I've told you that. I really do like his character as the Ash Vok character with Laurel, and his interaction as a love interest with Michael. I absolutely it's the worst for me. But the episode where he was kind of having a fun little time with Georgiou trying to get the sphere data and defend against Leland, I think it was on that planet where they captured Michael's mother. Like, they were having like a cool banter. So I kind of want to see them together again. I think that would be fun. I think they had good chemistry.
I'd like to see more of those together because I think they're great, but I'm not sure, to be honest. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go back to Las Vegas a second.
Yeah. Sorry, before we get into that,
I'd like to see more of is, because I'm a big gaming person, you know that.
Yep.
I want to see Star Trek video games. I felt we've been lacking heavily. Okay, we've got STO, but let's be honest, STO is quite old now. Something new and fresh. Give us a new video game. That's what we're lacking, I feel. And I didn't say this earlier. I was going to say it, but I feel like we're in a new Star Trek golden age, essentially. Someone else put this on Twitter earlier. We've got tons of stuff coming out. Next year will be a golden age with Star Trek. We've got tons of new shows, people coming back to it, new people coming into it. Yeah, we're in a golden age. But to build on to my point, we need some video games. I feel like Star Trek is missing out on there. We've got plenty of good video game mods, but we just need something new.
That's true. Yeah, Stellaris is keeping us alive with New Horizons.
Stellaris and the sins of Solar.
Yep, that's true. So first off, I want to say thank you to Jordan Richichi for the donation, and he says you gentlemen need to do more team ups, and hopefully we will if you guys and gals enjoyed this.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for the kind words and for the donation. To answer your question about the Star Trek video games, yes, this is something that I have been thinking about for quite a while, especially now that we have such a massive revamp of Trek, that it boggles my mind that we have not had another solid Trek game. And I'm not talking about those trash mobile games that they're putting out, because there's several mobile games for Star Trek that are just time sinks.
I'm talking like a full-on proper video game for PC and other systems, etc.
Yes, I agree 100%. There is definitely time now for a Star Trek game. What that looks like, I don't know. I don't know if the intent would be to try to do a first-person shooter, an RTS, a 4X, a ship game like Star Trek. I think it was Star Trek Galaxies, I want to say it was, where you flew around as a ship. Armada? No, it was a console game. Is that what it was? Was it Armada? I don't remember.
Armada was the one where you flew around and blew ships up, basically, and you could fight the Borg, etc.
Okay, I think it was a different one. There was like a console game, and I want to say it was like Star Trek
Bridge Commander, where you could fly around as a Galaxy class and you could like control the bridge, etc.
Yes, which is cool, and we do have the current Bridge Commander style game now, which is, I think, just the Bridge Crew one, where it's like the VR one, the virtual reality one. But yeah, we need a full-fledged hardcore Star Trek game, and I think that it's doable. I think that if you look at a game like, say, like Mass Effect, where it's
something like that would do good.
Something like that would be great. You have away team missions, you have ships.
Yeah, imagine that. You've got your own Starfleet ship, you captain, you've got the crew you can take down with you. God, BioWare, get over it quickly. No.
Yeah, seriously, yeah, or someone. I don't know if BioWare's got the talent there now, but somebody needs to get on that, because I think that's something that we could really, really do well for Star Trek. I think that would be really great for the community and give some people something to enjoy, and just one more thing that we can enjoy for Trek, because I think that you're right to say that we are in a new golden age for Star Trek. And I want to say it was actually Expertise that came up with that little graphic where it was like
That's what I saw on Twitter. It was where it's like basically exploded at the end.
Yeah, and it was like the ultra special crazy time period, which is where we're at right now, which is there's just an explosion of Star Trek all over the place. And I think we are in a brand new golden age for the Trek shows, the Trek franchise, and I think even going into the rumored and most likely inevitable merger with Viacom / Paramount and CBS again, now we're going to get also a lot more Star Trek films, not just the rumored Tarantino film that's out there, but I think Kurtzman is going to take control of that as well, along with the global franchise group, and just start pumping out large-scale productions for Star Trek on the big screen to compete in all areas. So I'm cool with it. I know people don't like some of the stuff that they're doing and criticisms are fair because some of the show's writing isn't the best, but you know, from Discovery perspective. But what they're doing is they're taking Star Trek and they're saying we're gonna make this a thing. It was dormant for years. It's died off. You know, in the late 2000s, the shows slowly choked themselves with their own formulas and they got stale a bit. I would say, I know that might be controversial to some people, but I think they got a little stale with their formulas. And they're looking at this saying, we're going to make Star Trek a thing. This is going to be a thing, and people are going to be engaged with Star Trek. A little plug there, but they're going to be engaged with Star Trek the way that people, because they're looking at what I think they're looking at, CBS is looking at what the mainstream appeal now of Star Wars, which was always hugely popular, but now it's like, other than the fact that people like to shit on it now, but you know, it's very approachable for everybody. It's a very mainstream thing to like Star Wars now. Everybody is like a Star Wars fan. Everyone knows Star Wars. Everyone knows the characters of Star Wars. Star Wars is a very approachable pop culture topic, just the same as Marvel's comic universes. So I feel like they're looking at that and saying, what do we have in our library that can do that? And they're seeing Star Trek as that avenue. And I think that they're doing everything they can to make it a thing. And I'm excited. Yeah. Like, I'm super excited for it. I think it's a great time to be a Trek fan. I made that tweet a little bit ago, and I think it's a great time to be a Star Trek fan because it's definitely
we're in a new modern age of Starship at the moment, and if you're not into it now, get into it because this is a great time to be in it because you've got all the old stuff available to watch on demand and new stuff literally coming out next year at the very start with one of the legends of Star Trek, Patrick Stewart, leading the series. Is going to be amazing. So if you've not watched it, you're going to love it, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think, you know, the anti-New Trek group is large and loud, but ultimately I think that they are going to be kind of left in the dust a little bit because Trek is moving forward. And the overwhelming positive reaction to Pike, the overwhelming positive reaction to the Picard show, and I think is just showing that people are hungry for more Trek. They're hungry for good Star Trek, and I think if you just hate everything just to hate it, that I think you might get left in the dust a little bit because we're moving forward. The franchise is heading into new horizons. We're going into the final frontier here with these shows, and I think it's great.
How many references can we make?
As many as I possibly can, actually. So
yeah, we are going into a new frontier of Star Trek at the moment, and it's wonderful, to be honest. And we've picked a great time to come here and cover Star Trek. I think, you know, we're seeing sort of CBS reaching out to fans as well. We've now got an official Star Trek podcast, which Tawny Newsom is going to be heading up. That's going to be fantastic. The global franchise group is a fantastic thing as well. It looks like they're going to try and work with fans a lot more. So yeah, it's going to be very cool. I can't wait to see what we do. Next year is going to be massive for Star Trek. Mark my words. We are heading out to Star Trek Las Vegas, and you're coming as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that would be great. So,
yes, just obviously sum this up a bit because we're going to go on for a while now. Star Trek Las Vegas, because we didn't really finish off on that one.
Right.
I think it's going to be a great event. Obviously, Pike, that's going to be a big thing. Maybe a couple of video games, Section 31 update, and Lower Decks. The whole Discovery crew are turning up, well, most of them anyway. So maybe a few more teasers of what's going on over there. Maybe some new cast announcements, potentially. Because we've got one new cast member, so maybe a couple of others now. Who knows? But it could be quite cool. I don't think we'll see a teaser trailer or anything yet. Nothing like that. It's too soon.
Yeah, way too soon, I think, in my mind as well. But yeah, I think we'll get... Yeah, I think not only you're right, we're going to get some casting announcements. I think the show's going to be announced, in my opinion. They're going to get more supporting cast members announced. Maybe some of the bridge crew from the TOS Enterprise that we saw at the end of Discovery.
Commander Nhan was on board. I've forgotten the actress who plays her. I think it's Rachel something. But she's on board. So hopefully she's staying there. Also, I hope Tig Notaro is coming back as Jet Reno for season 3 because I loved her character in season 2. She's one of the greatest additions to the cast, I think, bar Anson Mount and that. So hopefully she's coming back for season 3.
I hope so too. She was actually on the books initially to do the moderation for the Star Trek panel, but she wasn't there.
Was it true that Jonathan Frakes was meant to be at San Diego Comic-Con but landed somewhere else apparently due to a plane delay?
Yeah.
I know still a few people joking about it. I don't know if it's actually true or not, though.
I don't know if that's true or not either. It would, it's weird that he wasn't there, but I do believe that he'll be there for Star Trek Las Vegas, which is another treat, I think, for people going to Las Vegas. They're going to be able to get a chance to talk to probably Frakes, some of the Discovery cast members that weren't obviously at San Diego Comic-Con. They'll probably have Doug Jones there and Anthony Rapp and, you know, some of those characters there and possibly even Tig Notaro and Possibly they can even get Marina Sirtis to show up for Las Vegas to talk about her character's reprisal of Picard and stuff. So I feel like they're just going to get more in depth with the highlight previews that we got from San Diego Comic-Con, which is great in my opinion. You know,
Maybe if we're lucky, we might get a shot of the Frakes and Picard being on. I've done it. What you've done now, Frakes and Patrick Stewart on set at Las Vegas because they're filming this week. It might be a bit too close.
right.
But if someone takes a nice picture, we might get a little bit of a teaser of what's going on.
And
so, we can analyze the shit out of that picture.
That's right. So if I'm being fully honest and full disclosure, I don't know what I'm more excited for: Riker coming back with Marina Sirtis, or to the potential of being able to see a fully realized canon version of the USS Titan. And
Ooh.
I'm pretty pumped for both, but I feel like I'm leaning more towards excited to see the Titan. I really have wanted to see this thing on screen since they first mentioned the name, since it's been in.
I love the Titan. I have the Hugo Moss model of it and everything. And I remember when there was a group who tried to do like a petition for a Star Trek Titan series all those years ago, and they had the CGI on YouTube and such. You can search up now at Star Trek Titan. They've still made the videos about it.
Right.
I'd love to see that. But someone pointed out a good theory. What if Riker's commanding the Enterprise? And I don't think he will be, but it would plug a hole essentially, because who else is going to be commanding the Enterprise? Worf? LaForge? Nah.
No.
Sure, unless it is Worf. There's one thing. It appears Worf has been made a full-on commander by the year 2381. This could just be a misprint in the First Duty exhibit, because it says Picard was given a Klingon bat'leth by Commander Worf in 2381. Now, usually lieutenant commanders abbreviate as commanders as well, so it could just be a type like that. But this is the accuracy of the exhibit. It would be a bit odd to do that. So maybe he's reached full commander by 2381. And if so, it's not too hard to believe that he could become the captain. Maybe he is the XO. He did serve as XO in the books for a while. First officer to Picard in the books, I believe. So he could be the captain of the Enterprise.
So let's
Captain Worf series, go on.
Yeah, so let's kind of transition a little bit there to,
of course,
Worf. Let's talk about Worf. There's another topic I want to talk about, but now you mentioned Worf. Let's talk about that. So I am concerned, and I don't think that they will bother to bring Worf back just because I don't know what makeup they'll put him in. Are they going to go with the Discovery full-on heavy prosthetic look, or they go with these standard, what we've seen before, Worf look? And I feel like if they do the standard Worf look, people are going to be confused and upset by that. And I do also think if they go with the full-on Discovery Klingon look, people will be confused and upset by that as well. So he's a very problematic character in my mind to bring back because of the aesthetic change of the Klingons. What do you think about that?
Yeah, when you bring that up, it does make a lot of sense. I mean, the right way to do it, in my opinion, is to honor the previous character of how he looked. Changing his look completely to Discovery Klingon would be way too drastic and not right, in my opinion. They need to honor the previous Worf that came before. Obviously, yes, they need to modify the prosthetic makeup because he's aged, obviously, and, most likely the molds aren't still right. We probably are, actually. CBS are very good at archiving stuff. But, yeah, they shouldn't make it like the new Trek. They should honor the old stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm okay with some minor, and I put minor in big, bold letters, minor tweaks to his look if they want to just update it a little bit. Very minor tweaks to update it, but I would be upset to see him rolling around like Takuvma or something like that with a full-on prosthetic. And I don't even know if Michael Dorn would even be interested in returning if that was the case.
Oh, he wants to, apparently. Like, he wants to return because he's been petitioning for a Captain Worf series for years now. So I'm not sure. Maybe we'll get that at some point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he wants to return, but I don't know if he'd be wanting to return in the Discovery makeup, is what I should say.
I don't think he would.
Yeah, I think he would be adamantly against that, and which is fine, and yeah, so that's the one that's the most problematic for me. I'm concerned about that, but at the same time, though, because the only one that's missing right now is Worf and LaForge, what I understand.
I mean, what I loved is I read the interview of LaForge, LeVar Burton, a week or two ago, or about a week, a couple of days actually, before the San Diego Comic-Con, where he goes, yeah, most likely cast are going to return. And it's like, bang, cast to return. He's like, oh, GG, LaForge, well done. So I'm not sure when he'll come back.
Yeah, yeah. So that I don't know if his. So Patrick Stewart said that not all of the TNG main cast members are set to return for season 1 of
Yeah.
Picard,
He's
but
specific though. He mentioned season 1. He didn't say
yes,
like the entire series. So
right.
I mean, most likely we're going to have to see Gates McFadden as Beverly Crusher at some point.
Oh gosh, yeah, I know they
I
need to
hope
get
so.
her. I
Beverly.
Beverly, yeah, okay, that's the worst. You're better at that than I am because you have the accent. I'm just, yeah, I'm trying to do an impression and an accent at the same
Have
time.
you
It's
ever
not.
seen John Luke or Patrick Stewart's French John Luke impression?
No, I have
The
not.
Starship Enterprise is basically what it's like.
Oh,
It's hilarious.
that
I'll send you
sounds.
the video later.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that. Yeah. So the whole situation to me with Doctor Crusher, Beverly's character, that is the one that I want to know a bit about, and I hope that they address it in season 1 of Picard. Obviously, I don't think she's going to be in it because I think they would have probably disclosed that since they already disclosed all these other characters that are coming back.
Hmm.
And which she definitely still could. There's no reason that they aren't just holding off on that, and that could just be another surprise twist for all of us. But that's the one I want to be addressed at least, because in every iteration that we've ever seen, both in Alpha and Beta canon stuff, Picard and Beverly always wind up together in some form or fashion. They usually wind up getting divorced, or one of them dies, or they have a kid, or whatever it is. But they usually always wind up together for the most part. So if they just try to act like he never bothered to pursue that relationship, the one that they've been building up for so many years with TNG stuff, I would be. I'm not gonna be pissed, but I'd be a little bit kind of disappointed, I guess would be the word I would use to describe it. Because I just want to know, like, even if it's just like a throwaway line, like, they did, or they, it didn't work out, or that she died during some kind of mission, and maybe he blames himself for that, and maybe that's why he left Starfleet, or whatever it is. I want them to address it in some way. She's the one that's most
Yes.
important to me.
She's a very key, important part of Picard's life, and it needs to be explained. I mean, speaking about other cameos as well, Whoopi Goldberg as Guinan. Interesting one. Very close to Picard's life.
Hmm.
So, maybe she'll pop up at some point.
Yeah, I mean,
And obviously, one
there's
of the big ones people are asking for is John Delancey's return as Q.
yes.
Someone who's been very quiet about the Picard thing. I don't think I've seen him mention anything about it. I mean, he's not very social that often, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's something to do there.
Oh, if they're pulling out this many nostalgia bombs for a Picard show, they're gonna pull out John DeLance. I would be, because it's not like he's not still active with the television production community. He's still an actor. He's still very active in that realm. It would be so surprising if they didn't bother to, especially considering their history and their relationship from the TNG show. I would be surprised if he doesn't make a role even in this season. He might even be. I would be surprised if he's not even in this first season, just in a small role or something like that. I would be surprised if he's not there at all, because that's something I think people really, really want to see. And it's something that I think Star Trek is lacking right now. Discovery, and I've mentioned this in a few videos, Discovery does lack a kind of primordial essence, because that was always the kind of one of the fun things about, like, especially like with TNG and even Deep Space Nine and with Voyager and Enterprise for that matter. They always had like what was going on, and it was very serious, but there was always like that thing that was like above all that, and there's other stuff going on in the universe that's kind of on another plane of existence almost, that's way beyond what we understand as normal humans. And the Q continuum was definitely one of those things. And I feel like that's something that Star Trek should get back to, which is like there's other beings, there's other things happening. It's not just humanoids and starships and planets and away missions. There's other things kind of happening out there, these all powerful primordial beings. And I hope so. I hope that Q comes back, even if it's just a small capacity. I would like him to come back. So he's the big one. Crusher's the other big one they need to address. And I do want to see LaForge and Worf return, but they're not as pressing in my mind as Crusher and Q are at this point.
Yes, I agree.
So let's shift and talk a little bit about. This is going to be, I think this will be kind of like a brief topic. So as we kind of go through this chat box, if you guys have questions that you would like us to answer or anything, go ahead. Now's the time to start putting those into the chat box so we can start reading them. So what are your feelings about the Tarantino Trek movie?
I'm always keen for Star Trek to be explored through different visions, and I think that's key. We've seen that done before, where DS9 was one of the first for like a dark and nitty-gritty Star Trek. And look how well that series did. I recently watched the DS9 documentary, What We Left Behind. Great documentary, by the way. If anyone gets a chance to watch it, definitely do. It's out on DVD soon. And I think exploring Star Trek through Quentin Tarantino's vision could be very cool. Just because it's R-rated doesn't mean it's going to be, blood and gore. Basically, R rating means he has the freedom to do what he wants. He's not confined to do certain things. And that's one thing about Tarantino. He hates being confined.
Right.
You see that in a lot of his films. Just because it's R rated doesn't mean it's going to be the worst thing in the world, like gorish. So, I think people should take that with a pinch of salt. And people saying like, oh, Star Trek shouldn't be told through that. Wait and see. I think it's keen to, okay, if you're not really keen about it, don't worry about it. But I'm optimistic. It could be quite cool to see how Star Trek's told through that. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I agree with you 100% to say that. And that's kind of like why I go back to like the lower decks thing. I'm excited to see other lenses of this universe. It doesn't need to always be the 5-year mission or the big drama or the world-ending event or the all-important crew on the all-important ship. I'm excited to see what other people think about this universe and plug in different ideas. I mean, we don't know anything about it other than the fact that it would be R-rated. A lot of people theorize that it would be something similar to like a Guardians of the Galaxy type thing. That's just a big theory. One that I happen to share. It'd be kind of like a swashbuckling kind of band of people, not necessarily a Starfleet crew. But I do think that the idea of a new version of Trek and new lens of looking at this universe is fun because there's other avenues to look at on this show. In this universe, I should say. So I'm excited for it. Even if it never gets to be made, I would love for that script treatment to leak out online for all of us to see what it was he was thinking about.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious. I just want to know where he was planning on taking it and where, as of right now, it seems as though studio execs who have read it and reviewed what their pre-treatment was seem to be okay with it. They seem to be interested in it. So I'm curious to see where they were headed with that. I guess a second question I would have with that is, what did you think about Star Trek Beyond? Since that's our last Star Trek film.
To be honest. Yeah, I mean, it could have been better, but I liked it, to be honest. I mean, Simon Pegg wrote it, and I think he's a great storyteller. But it was interesting. The only thing that ticked me off was the Franklin. That ship is annoying as fuck. I like the idea, don't we? It's brilliant design. However, if you wanted to include a Federation ship, just chuck in an X class in. Could have chucked in a different one so it could be atmospheric capable, for Christ's sakes. Could have made some changes there to make it different. I just think including the Franklin and then screwing it up by saying it's the first Warp 5 thing or something like that just really messed around with Enterprise's lore there. And what's different is, we are in an alternate timeline, the Kelvin universe,
right?
Timeline, but the event for the Kelvin until the USS Kelvin was around in the year 225.
223 or 233 or something.
You get the
like
gist.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, that century. 23rd century, isn't it? Yeah, 23rd century. That didn't occur to there. Everything from Enterprise would be exactly the same up until then, theoretically.
Yeah. So yeah.
Why the fuck was this ship around? It doesn't make any sense. And that's what really annoyed me out of it. But I did like the fact they made it out that it was Mako. That was quite a nice callback. And in the motorbike, it had Mako on it and everything. But it was cool. Seeing the Enterprise being destroyed as well was cinematically beautiful.
Yes, I agree. So I did a video a long time ago, maybe 6 months ago now, where I talked about the Franklin and how it doesn't neatly fit into canon, but it does fit if you stretch your imagination just a little bit. But even with that explanation, I think it's plausible that it does exist because it says it was the worst Warp 4 capable ship, and
Warp 4, sorry.
Yeah, so it's definitely, it has a place. I'm not going to get into all the details that I went to. It has a place, but ultimately, right, why bother doing all that if you could just slap an NX-01 class ship in there? I don't know if that was a rights thing because they just didn't want to pay for the rights to use an NX class because Paramount may have had to license that, Yeah, let's not get into the rights discussion right now, but I don't know if it was something to do with that or whatever they wanted. But I liked the Franklin, but you're right to say like it was like, did you really need to put that in there. But I did like
Imagine
how
if
they
they chucked in like an NX starship, just take out. It doesn't have to be the Columbia because that's got its own story technically.
yeah
But something like that, NX-05, one of the ships that was obviously made after Archer's time a little bit.
yeah
After the NX Enterprise ended. So I don't know, maybe something like that could be really cool, and they chuck that in. The amount of fan service, that'd be great. And not just doing it for fan service, but respecting the lore as well.
yeah.
People would love that. Guarantee you a place for Franklin with an NX class.
Mhm.
It'd make a lot more sense, and people are like, yeah, I like this.
Yeah, I mean, because I think its original registry number was an NX class, and then when the whole thing there was, and this was all like explained outside of the movie, it was an NX class, and then they rechristened it with USS, whatever its designator was, I don't remember now, when they
When it was
made the
brought into the Federation, essentially.
Yeah. So there was that whole thing there that it was like a Mako ship, and that's why it looked different. It was a military Warp 4 vessel as opposed to a Starfleet one, so it didn't have the same look to it. But I like the effort they put in to try to make it seem like it was part of the lore there, and at least acknowledged Enterprise with the Mako plug, and they had the pods there and all that stuff. So I thought that was cool. But overall, my feelings on Beyond, like, I loved it. I thought Beyond was great. A lot of people like to crap on it. I thought it was great. And I still remember leaving the theaters a few years ago when it came out. I remember leaving the theater and thinking to myself, man, that movie was awesome. Like, I remember the feeling of leaving the theater with it. So but there's always room for more Star Trek movies. So with that, let's go ahead and look at some of your guys' questions here. So one of these questions here says, do you think the Picard series is going to end with them killing him off? I would say...
Ooh.
Ooh.
No, I don't think so.
That's a tough one.
I'm just going to say no straight away and end that conversation here. Let's not start thinking about that. We've got plenty of seasons of Picard. We're not killing him off yet. Go away.
Yeah,
Let me enjoy this.
I agree. Yeah, I would say that the answer would probably be no. I think that they'll do a really good send off of the character, better than what we got from Star Trek Nemesis, but I don't think they're going to kill him off. No. I don't think so. I don't think and I say that just not necessarily because how much I care about the character, but like when Harrison Ford came back to play Han Solo, like he came back and everyone knew he only had one thing to do there, and that was so that people would stop bothering him about Star Wars because he wanted his character to die off. And that's not what Patrick Stewart's intent is, I think, with this show. I think he wants to do a proper send-off of his character and all those characters out there. So I think I don't think they're going to kill him. I don't think so. That would be
no.
That would be pretty crazy. See here. Let's go through the guys' comments. There's so many. I'm trying to read them as quickly as possible. One comment here says, I would love to see, from SC, it says, I would love to see Dennis Villanueva do a Star Trek movie. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No, I'm not familiar with him.
He did the most recent Blade Runner movie, I believe, doing also Dune, doing production on Dune. That would be interesting, but that would be a very artistic style take with Trek, which I'm open to. I'm cool with that. So yeah, I'm okay with that. But
so David Walker here says, I really don't want Tarantino to touch Trek. I really don't think he would respect the history of the show, nor do I think he'd respect the spirit of the franchise. While that potentially could be correct, Tarantino is actually a big Star Trek fan. Particularly, he's a very big Star Trek fan of the original series. Like, he loves William Shatner quite a lot. And I was just reading an interview while Kowalski was talking here about how Tarantino loves the idea of William Shatner, a very big fan of that, but loves the idea of like the Guardian of Forever. He loves the original series. So I think he does respect the franchise, but at the same time wants to add like a spicy twist to it. So, I think it's to remain cautiously optimistic, essentially.
I would agree. I agree 100%. I think he cares about Star Trek, like you said. I think that ultimately his own artistic style would want to continue to show through, and I don't think he's going to want to be held back by any of the other stuff that some of the other, I guess you could say, directors and artists have to deal with. So it's possible that he may even try to do something in his own universe, or maybe try to do like something that's so off the beaten path that it wouldn't affect the others Trek stuff that we know, and he just wants to do something through that lens of the franchise. But I think it's possible. I think he would keep with what we know about Star Trek, but do his own flavor. So Omar says, how do you want the Earth and Federation to look 1,000 years later in terms of technology? I think this is probably a reference to Star Trek Discovery. I would say that I want them to be as as futuristic as they want to be, as much money as they can throw into it to make it as futuristic as they want. I do want them to respect the lore established from the Temple Accord situation and all that stuff that was set up from Star Trek Enterprise. So I don't want it to look too far away from that. We didn't get to see a lot of that. We just saw some little bits there, here and there. And I would want it to be as advanced as they would like to make it. Make it as advanced as they possibly want. Holographic HUDs, different looking, sleeker ships, all sorts of craziness. Like I think the sky's the limit on that. What do you think?
They can go batshit crazy of how if they want holographic communication, they can have communication. They can have it, basically. Holographic communications is a thing. Like say holographic HUDs, they can have what they want. It's a future. They can really show what we should have in the future. That's something Star Trek's always been about when they used to walk around with pads, which eventually became iPads and stuff like that. They can do that now with Discovery, which is great.
Yes, I agree. I agree for sure. So, Amazed Atsuma, I don't know how to say your name, sorry, it says, pretty sure the Kelvin universe would still exist if Beyond was the second film in the series. I agree 100%. Into Darkness is one of the few Star Trek films that I absolutely do not like at all for many, many reasons. Not just because it was a retelling of Khan. I thought that the film script as a whole, just from a filming perspective, I thought was weak.
I rewatched the intro the other day on YouTube, and it was very... And I liked the idea of the inclusion of Section 31, and they didn't make a big song and dance out of them.
Yeah.
Like they apparently have to these days. There's one thing I'm not a fan of in Section 31 new series where they have to basically shout it. It's like, you're right, don't make it too obvious.
Right.
Someone else just said something, and I've lost it now. Someone said about Picard's nephew dying in a fire. That's obviously a very dark scene in Generations, is when Picard learns that his family have died. An interesting thing to point out, and Memory Alpha pointed out on Twitter, is Marie Picard, who is the wife of Robert and obviously the mother of Renee, is still alive. She didn't actually die in the fire. Well, we think she's still alive. She could have died some other time, but Picard technically still does have family in, like, what would that be? If it's your brother's wife, what's the term for that?
That's his sister-in-law.
There you go. That's so yeah, he still has a sister-in-law.
Yeah. So he still has a sister-in-law. I don't know if they're going to try to play that or if they're going to try to flip it to make it seem like she died in the fire too, but hopefully not.
Just walked away. I mean, it's 20 years later.
Yeah.
Even more actually, because Generations took place in 2374, 5. I can't remember.
Yeah.
At some point.
I would say 5. I think it's 5. Don't quote me on that, but I want to say it's 5.
I'll double check.
But yes, I think she's going to be alive, and I think that it's possible. Gotcha. Cool. Perfect. And I think it's even possible they may even try to include that as a story into the Picard show, where she may still be on the Vineyard with him, because Picard. Yeah, so Patrick said that the dog doesn't come with him on his adventure, so it's possible he leaves.
Someone's got to look after the dog.
Someone's got to look after the dog. It could be her. She could definitely be there. Or he could ask her to come back, and maybe she comes back and has that scene of, like, I miss this old place, and he's like, I've got to go on an adventure. That's my terrible Picard impression.
I'm off on an adventure as he runs out of the house.
Yeah, what is he, Bilbo Baggins?
One last thing to end this off here, because I'd like to end soon if that's all right. One last thing to end off.
Yeah.
Ship in Picard series. We know they've got a new ship, and we see Santiago Cabrera, who's apparently the captain of this. He's sitting in the command chair, and they've got the holographic interfaces. What do you reckon his ship is? Do you reckon it's like some burnt-out shuttle? Do you reckon it's some like ex-Starfleet thing? Maybe like a new version of a runabout or something? I'm not sure. It seems like a very odd ship. Like, if you look at the pictures, it's very long. It looks like a cargo shuttle in a way.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a whole new ship design. I think it's going to be something that was so super unique. I don't think it's going to be a Starfleet registered ship at all. I think it's going to be a civilian freighter of some type. It looks kind of like an evolution of the cargo freighters that we saw from Enterprise. You know, like those old school ships. So I think it's going to be.
You know, you've got like a very long corridor almost in a way.
Right.
Maybe they're just reusing the sets from something else. It was a very long corridor.
Yeah.
Then like stacked things on the sides and like chairs which are like there just for the sake of it. Yeah, you've got the 3 main chairs, and Santiago sat there in his sort of command chair for holographic interfaces. So they're already using holographic interface, and it makes sense because they would be using them by the year 2399.
For sure. Absolutely. I think they would be. And I think it fits fine. I don't think that breaks canon at all. I know some people are probably going to complain about it still, but I think it's fine. And I think the ship overall will be something we've never seen before. And I think it's going to be another one of those things where we get an opportunity to see what happens outside of Starfleet. Like, what's a ship that some civilian company is building for cargo ship, traders and stuff like that. It may even be like a little rundown. I mean, it looks futuristic, but it's possible that the ship itself is kind of like a bit of a rundown kind of like ship that Picard gets in, and he has to kind of adjust his expectations a little bit, for the ship. Like maybe it has like
warp TL Grey Hot on board.
Yeah, there's no Tyrell Grey Hot. Maybe it doesn't have the same weapons and shields and speed that the normal Federation ship has. So I think there's some fun to play with that there, that he's kind of getting adjusted to being on a civilian ship as opposed to a Starfleet christened vessel. So I think that's what we're going to see for sure. And I'm excited. I can't wait to see what that ship is and what it's called, because I don't think we have any of those details yet.
It's going to be interesting. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes.
For sure. But all right, let's go ahead and wrap it up here. I do want to go ahead and thank everybody that appeared for the live stream chat channel to coming out and spending some time with us. I know we talked for about an hour and a half now. I appreciate you guys and gals coming out and spending some time with us. If you're not already subscribed or following the Trek Central channel on Twitter and YouTube, you absolutely should be. They're producing solid quality content of both news and lore bits for Star Trek. Captain Jack and his crew over there are doing a phenomenal job, and they're quickly rising in the ranks of becoming a major player in the Trek YouTube community. So if you're not already checking them out, you should be. Yeah, you guys.
Of course, thank you to yourself for having me on here today, and thank you to your lovely viewers for accommodating the British accent. I know, not everyone likes it, but it's been very nice.
No, yeah, definitely, no problems there. And again, apologize to you and the fans for the technical difficulties at the beginning. I'm glad we finally got the stream to work, so I think it was a really good chat, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again soon. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, maybe you can come over to my channel and we can do one on there at some point. It could be a good idea to have like maybe a session, maybe after Las Vegas, to do a similar thing where we can discuss the Pike series. No, I'm joking.
That sounds like a date for the Pike series, so.
That could be really cool. Anyway, I'm sure we'll work that out at some point.
For sure, definitely. All right, thanks again, and thanks again for everybody for popping in, and we'll catch all of y'all next time.